guys! Welcome to today's video. In today's video, I am going to be tier ranking every book that I read in 2023. Now in 2023, I read 84 books, which is pretty good. It might have been too many actually, because as you'll see in this video, I feel like I've forgotten a lot about a lot of these books, but nevertheless, I am going to be tier ranking all of them. So let's get into it. Okay, first let's go over the categories that I have. Our first category for like my 5-star perfect great books is My Actual Child. These books are my actual children. Next up, the 4-star range is Silver Star. Like, it was really, really good. Not perfect, but still very, very good. Third is A Pat on the Back. Like, it's a book. It's a book that I read. Didn't dislike it. Didn't love it. It's a book. Next up, in like the 2-star range, we have What? These are the books that I probably don't remember very well, that I wasn't just amazed with, that I read but didn't like that much. And last, for the 1-star range, I have How Very Dare You. These are books that I'm upset that I read, and so how dare they? So, with that, let's get into it. So going in chronological order, the first book I read last year was Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. I adored this book. It's all about, you know, you're not what happens to you, you're how you respond to it. And it's this woman who slowly starts to turn into a werewolf after she is attacked by a werewolf, and it's just her grappling with her new life and her old life. It's perfect. I loved it. I loved it. Next, I read Hard Day for a Hangover by Dorinda Jones. So this is a lesser-known trilogy of Sunshine Vikram. I like these books. They're just like kitschy little mysteries, but they also get really, really dark. I like this series a lot. I think it's a Silver Star for sure. Next, I read Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I really liked this book. It was by no means a favorite book of the year for me. I know a lot of people put it on like their best books of the year list. Not my favorite secret project. I didn't love like the middle ending. So for that, I'm going to give it a Silver Star above Sunshine. Next, Remarkably Bright Creatures. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Wasn't a favorite. I had some issues with the pacing of when, our remarkably bright octopus character realized things and made things known, but then our main characters didn't quite know. It was cute. I think it's a pat on the back. Next, we have Now Is Not the Time to Panic. This was like a very literary book. It felt kind of like you're in a trance while reading it. I liked it a lot. I think that I will put it at a top of pat on the back for now. Oh, what is this next one? A Line to Kill by Anthony Horowitz. You guys, this series deserves way more love and attention and affection. This book, it changed how I view gambling as like a recreational thing that we market and advertise to people, and how destructive it can be for some people. I loved it. I think for now it's going to go to the top of Silver Star. It might get bumped up to My Actual Child at some point. Next we have Fellowship of the Ring. As I said in a previous video, I didn't love Fellowship of the Ring. It was just a lot of people walking. It's not my thing. I appreciate it, but for now it's going to get a pat on the back just because, I appreciate where it got us for the fantasy genre. Oh boy. Okay. It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. With this book, I am not the target market for a Colleen Hoover book. Nevertheless, this book was awful. This is a How Very Dare You. This book does not need to exist. In the first book, and it ends with us, the characters went through all their growth, they made all their changes, and we are left at a good point. And so in this book, there was nowhere else for them to grow. So, how very dare you. Next, we have Wrong Place, Wrong Time. Again, this was a thriller that I thought was really good. A lot of people love this. Not my favorite. Honestly, I think I'm going to put it at the end of a pat on the back for right now with how that's looking. Mistborn, here we go. I love Mistborn. The whole original Mistborn trilogy is going to be in My Actual Child. I love Mistborn. This one is so fun, getting to see Vin and Kelsier and the whole crew come together. It's just a treat. Next up, Hidden Pictures. This was a really dark thriller. This was like a very horror adjacent thriller. Hit a really nice balance between scary moments and like just general thriller beats. Didn't love everything about it, so it's going to go into Silver Star for now. Oh my gosh. Now we have my first Rebecca Yarros book of the year. I read this for my book club, and as a whole, my book club, we didn't really like it. I didn't really like it. I'm gonna give it what I will say. The ending of this one is really, really good. Rebecca Yarros knows how to end the book well. Next up is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I really, 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 really like this book. I thought that it covered grief and, figuring things out about your family after they passed and confronting your grief and having strained sibling relationships and also being really funny, very scary. Pupkin still haunts my nightmares. I think I'm gonna put it in my actual child for now. I wouldn't be surprised if this bumps down to Silver Star later, but for now, very happy with that. Oh my gosh. Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I feel like people either love Warbreaker or they don't. I love Warbreaker. Warbreaker it's my go-to recommendation if you want to read Brandon Sanderson, read Warbreaker, because it's his most like romantic book, but then it still feels kind of epic because you have so many viewpoint characters. The magic system is color-based and breath-based. I just love Warbreaker. Warbreaker is so good. This is going into my actual child. This is above here. Yeah, I think that's good. That might change though. Okay, Legends and Lattes. This book was just, I've heard it described as a chai latte in a book, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a cute little romance run in a coffee shop in a fantasy world. I loved it. One of my favorites of the year. Next, I have The Counselors. I read this with a friend who we both used to work at a summer camp. I'm just a sucker for a summer camp setting. I know this book wasn't perfect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just love summer camp settings. I'm such a sucker for it. So I think I'm gonna put it here. Up next we have Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. This was the first arc I ever read, the first arc I ever got, so soft spot there. This was a very dark, wintry horror thriller. I think that it is just a perfect in the middle horror thriller. So if you're curious about horror, read this. For sure, top of Silver Star for now. Next up, I have We Spread by Ian Reid. This book gave me the major heebie-jeebies. It was a really short audiobook. It's a horror, but it's like a horror you feel deep in your soul and it makes you feel really unsettled. I will put it, no, I'll give Fellowship that. Okay. Put it there. Next. Oh, What Lies in the Woods. I did not like this thriller. The reveals were weird. It felt exploitative. I didn't like it. I'm gonna put it in what? But it borders on How Very Dare You. Now, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This was the first Riley Sager I've ever read. It was bold to do what he did in this book, but also it was the first book that made me be like, this man has never talked to a woman in his life. This man does not know how to write women at all. For that, and again, classic Riley Sager, so many reveals. I'm gonna put it at the top of what? Oh my gosh, The Fisherman. This is one of the best horror books that I read last year. It feels like classic Stephen King and like when he was at his prime. It's so good. It follows men dealing with grief and not knowing how to deal with these emotions. It captures the feeling of oral storytelling, and the way that it frames the story is so good. It is most of an incredible book that definitely lulls for a little bit, but again, I think I'm going to put it in my actual child. I love The Fisherman. Now we have Cytonic. Cytonic is the third book of the Skyward series. As I said in a previous video, I liked it. I think it was the lowest of the Cytonic books, or of the Skyward books so far. It felt like a side quest, so for that, I'm gonna put it at the top of Pat on the Back. I think this is my least favorite Sanderson book. And coming from that to my favorite Sanderson book, my favorite book of the year, The Well of Ascension, which is the second book in the Mistborn series. I am obsessed. This book made me cry, it made me gasp, it made me laugh. I love everything about it. Vin and Elend are my all-time favorite couple, characters, everything. They're my everything. I love The Well of Ascension. It destroyed me. Now I have The Cruel Prince. I think this one was fine. It wasn't anything that rocked my world. Again, I'm not a big romantasy fan. YA romantasy, not really my thing. I'm going to put it probably at the end of Pat on the Back. Now, The Hero of Ages, I binged so fast because of the way The Well of Ascension messed me up. I think I'm gonna put it here. I think it's a perfect ending to a trilogy. It ties up all the epic strings, does things that I did not expect. The original Mistborn trilogy is just perfection. It is so, so, so good. From there, I read The Night Circus. This is one of the few books where on the reread, I actually lowered my rating of it. I originally gave it 4 stars and then I changed it to 3 because there just isn't a lot of plot. There was just a lot of vibes. The vibes were really good, but just not a lot of plot. So I'm going to put that here. I know people love this book, so I'm sorry if this is one of your favorites. I'm in the middle of the final book of the Magician's trilogy right now. So maybe it's just because I have like rose-tinted glasses on right now. I think this book is really good. Took me a long time to read because it is very like literary and like well written. But I'm going to go ahead and put it into Silver Star. No, I think that looks good. Okay, up next we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. Now, I'm not a romance reader, but I am an Emily Henry reader. But I love the way that this book made everyone feel. I read this for book club and everyone took away something different from it, which I thought was just really, really beautiful. So for that, I will give it Silver Star. It did make me cry in public, so there's that. Next, we have The Alloy of Law, which is the first book of Era 2 of Mistborn. I don't like westerns. This book was a western. I think also going from the perfection that is Mistborn Era 1 to The Alloy of Law, it was good. It was not great. So I think I'm going to put this at the top of the Pat on the Back. Oh, Fourth Wing. Okay. I read Fourth Wing right when it came out. I thought that Fourth Wing was very earnest in what it was. I had fun. I read this like during a kind of stressful time and it was just like such an escape. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. I think I'm gonna put it... Oh, it feels blasphemous to put it above The Alloy of Law. I think it's gonna go here. Okay, Mad Honey. I love a courtroom drama. This book was an excellent courtroom drama. I think that this will go into Silver Star. Oh, Those We Drown. Lots of potential. Just not good. Just not good at all. I think I'm gonna put it here. Above What Lies in the Woods. Okay, next up I have another Hawthorne and Horowitz murder mystery. I love this series. The Hawthorne and Horowitz series, the author writes himself into this book as a character. So he solves these murders with this like grizzled, washed up older detective and this author following him around, and they just butt heads and you don't know what's real and what's not because the author is a character. So good. Twist of the Knife. This one takes place in a theater. I like this one a lot. I think I'm gonna put it with A Line to Kill. Honestly, I think I'm gonna bump Dead of Winter down. Oh, Mr. Magic! I love Mr. Magic. This book was such a surprise to me. It's all about the Mandela effect of trusting your memories as a child. This woman forgot that she was a child actor on like a cult classic TV show. And it's her going back and remembering and experiencing and these creepy liminal spaces, and just questioning like how do we raise children? How do we protect children with still like not overly insulating them from the world? This book threw me into an existential spiral. I loved it. I loved Mr. Magic. I'm gonna put it, I'll put it here. Um, so good. So good. It's a horror that's not overly horror. So if you're curious about horror, this one is more existential, if that's your thing. Next up, I have Wool. This was a book I read. My husband recommended me to read it. I'm not a big sci-fi reader. This book was good. It didn't have like that it factor for me, so it wasn't my favorite. It's gonna be a pat on the back. I think that it's gonna go about here. Then we have Scarlet. The premise of this one is what got me. It was French Revolution vampires, and I was like, sold. I love historical horror. This is going to be amazing. And it got to be there was just too much going on. It's like in like a reality competition show where they have like a design challenge. This one they needed to simplify. They needed to take some things off of the dress. So Scarlet, really good. It could have been amazing. It could have been really, really, really good. But I think I'm going to put it at the end of a pat on the back. Then, ooh, All the Dangerous Things. This one surprised me. I like this one a lot. This one, I kind of wanted it to critique the true crime genre more than it did. It started to really criticize because it follows a woman whose son went missing, and the only way that she is keeping the case alive is to engage with all of the true crime podcasts and reporters and media. And which I think is such an interesting way to look at the good that the true crime genre can do, but also the bad because you're forcing this mom to like rehash her trauma. I wanted it to lean into that more. I think I'm going to put it here. Okay. Sign Here. This is one of the best audiobooks that I listened to in 2023. The characters are hilarious for being demons in hell. I really enjoyed this. I love a family drama, and the family drama was very engaging. So I'm gonna put this in Silver Star. I think I'll go. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'll put it here. Oh boy, The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Like I said before, I am a sucker for a summer camp setting. This is Riley Sager at a summer camp. I don't like how Riley Sager writes women at all. I didn't like this book. It just wasn't it. I liked it less than A House Across the Lake, so I think it's gonna go here just because I liked it less than House Across the Lake, and I'm not gonna move House Across the Lake up to a pat on the back, so that's where it is. That after I read this book, I was like, I am never gonna read another Riley Sager book ever again. And as you can see on the screen, that's not true. Then I read The Chateau. I read a lot of like thrillers over the summer. So I'm going to put this, I think this is a pat on the back. I think I liked it more than Cruel Prince. I like Wrong Place, Wrong Time more, I'd say. Next up, my beloved Maeve. Maevfly. I love Maevfly. This is a true horror book. This is a body horror, very gory horror book. But it's about a woman who by day is a Disney princess, and by night she is a serial killer. There's also a unexpected hockey romance in this book. I love Maeve. I love Maevfly so much. I think it's gonna go here. Okay, next up I have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I read this book in a day. Black Sheep follows a girl who grew up in a religious cult, basically, and she escaped, and she gets a wedding invitation to her childhood best friend's wedding. So she goes back to her family, rediscovers new terrible things about her family's cult. I really liked Black Sheep a lot. I think I'm gonna put it here. Next up is The Emperor's Soul, which is a short story by Brandon Sanderson. I thought it was fine. I feel like Brandon Sanderson's endings are like top tier unmatched, and this ending just wasn't. So I think that The Emperor's Soul is it's going to go into a pat on the back. I think I liked it more than I liked Fellowship of the Ring. Next up, we have You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, which is another YA summer camp based horror. My summer of slasher was very real. This book was fun. For being a YA horror, I did not expect this one to be as dark as it was. It was really, really dark. Very frightening imagery. Again, I feel like it didn't fully stick the landing, but it was really enjoyable. So I think for that, yeah, I'll put it here. Next up is Bad Summer People. I originally heard that this one was like, not Pretty Little Liars, Big Little Liars? The Liane Moriarty, the one with the show. I'm blanking on the name. But I heard that originally that's what this book was, and I wanted it to be more of that. It didn't hit as much as I wanted it to. It was good. It was really meh. So it's for sure end of pat on the back. Now for the very polarizing Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. This was my least favorite secret project. Again, I'm not that into sci-fi. My husband, I listened to it with him. He loved it. He loved Frugal Wizard. I just think that, it wasn't for me. I think that I'm going to I'll put it here. And then I went from Frugal Wizard into my very favorite secret project, which was Yumi. Yumi is just a beautiful love story. It's like a forced proximity romance. I thought it was so endearing and adorable. Had some very lovely Cosmere moments that it just knocked my socks off. I cried. I ugly cried. I think that it belongs here. Okay, next up, Vera Wong. Vera Wong was so fun. This was a really fun audiobook as well. For that, I think it goes into Silver Star for sure. I think that it should go here. Beyond the Wand. I thought that the final third of Tom Felton's life after Harry Potter and dealing with like being a very successful child actor, trying to find success as an adult, dealing with addiction and his brain, fascinating, compelling, beautiful, wonderful. But it just felt very complimentary, and I wanted like expose, but I think that it was just a good time on Harry Potter. I don't know. It felt a bit too nice. So I'll put it here. Okay, then I read Fever House, which is another horror arc. This book, it had everything. It was too much. I think that for the right person, it will be great. I'm not that person. It wasn't for me. It was way too long. I think that it's going to go in the top of what? Or I think it's going to go here. So next I read The Eye of the World, first book of the Wheel of Time series. I really want to appreciate and know the basics of the fantasy genre and like the big classics. But The Eye of the World was another one of just people walking. And I know that people are like, it doesn't get good until like book 4. I don't know if I can handle more walking. It just wasn't for me. If I hit a certain number of subscribers, I'll read another Wheel of Time. Maybe you guys can strong arm me and convince me. But for now, The Eye of the World, I know it goes less than Fellowship. I think it's gonna go here. The Writing Retreat. This was another summer thriller, but taking place in the winter. It's about these women who go to a writer's retreat and scary stuff starts happening, mysterious stuff starts happening. It was good. I again don't remember too much about it. I remember they all had necklaces with animals for some reason. That sticks out in my mind. But I don't remember too much about it. I remember liking it. So I think it's going to go here. Next up, My Heart is a Chainsaw. Okay. This I feel like is a modern horror classic that like you have to read. People love Jade Daniels. I think that this book is good. I didn't love it. I really didn't like the ending. Next up, I've got Dead 11. I really liked Dead 11. So Dead 11 takes place in this town that is perpetually stuck on the same day of the same year in the 90s. So everything is just repeating, and it's like this town is afraid to move on. And it's about grief and how when we're going through grief, like we are afraid to move on and, like forget the memories of the ones that we've lost. So I thought that was a really good story about grief. I think that it gets definitely a pat on the back. I think no, it's gonna be in Silver Star. Okay, I gotta re-grab it. Okay, Silver Star for sure. I think I liked it more than The Magicians. I think that's good. I really liked that one. The more that I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I really liked that. Next up is Pachinko. This was another book club pick. I don't think I would have read this book were it not for my book club. Pachinko really surprised me. It made me start to question everything that I knew about what I liked to read, because this is a very literary book, it's a generational story of this family. I liked it way more than I ever expected that I would have. I wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't for book club. It was one of my favorite books of the year. I think that it's going to go at the top of Silver Star. I think it's gonna go here. I loved Pachinko. Then we have Live, Learn, Love Well by Emma Lovewell. Emma Lovewell is a Peloton instructor that I really like, and I saw that she wrote a memoir and it was available from the library, and I was like, why not? It was very like a self-help sort of book. Gave me some insight into her as a person. I thought was very fun. Didn't revolutionize anything, so I think I will put it in a pat on the back. I liked it more than Tom Felton's memoir, so I think for that it'll go here. Oh, my foray into Throne of Glass. Okay. I really, really, really liked Throne of Glass. I think that, we all know Throne of Glass, Sarah J. Maas. It's about a girl who's an assassin, and she's like, in this first book, she's like in an assassin's competition to see who is going to be like the king's personal assassin. But my problem with that is she's like, I can't let everyone know how good I am, so I have to keep my abilities a secret. So for a lot of this book is we're just trusting her that she is the best assassin that there's ever been. So I think that I wish that I read The Assassin's Blade. Yes, The Assassin's Blade before this, but can't change it. I still really liked it. It's going into Silver Star. I think it's going to go here. And then Divine Rivals. Oh, I'm reading Ruthless Vows right now. So I'm like remembering a lot about this one. I didn't love Divine Rivals as much as everyone. I thought that, the romance that takes place in between the main characters, they have magical typewriters, they send letters to each other, they fall in love, these gods are at war, their love goes against all odds. It's beautiful. We didn't have that it factor. We didn't have that special connection. I do think that, it's written really well. All around a really pretty book. I think that it's going to go above Fourth Wing, but just a pat on the back. Then I read Rouge by Mona Awad. I love Mona Awad. Her horror books are just so deeply unsettling, and this one was also deeply unsettling. It might be my least favorite Mona Awad that I've read so far. So I do think it's going to get a pat on the back. I think it's going to go here. No. It's going to go here. Like, I feel like the more I think about it, the less I like it, which is kind of sad. But I think that's okay. I think that's okay for now. Next up is The Golden Spoon, which is like, in theory, a murder mystery that takes place at the Great British Baking Show, which sounds like a hoot. Again, the premise was great, didn't stick the landing. I don't really remember too much. The characters, though, were all very, well written and well defined, so I did like that. So I think it's gonna go here. Ooh, Then Everyone is Lying. This book surprised me. I did not expect to like this book as much as I did. It was one of my favorite books of the year, best thriller of the year. I think that it was, again, really engaging police procedures. It follows this girl in this town goes missing, and it's them trying to find her, the multiple POVs of like pointing fingers, who could it have been, who thinks it was who and why. It felt like a very suburban drama where everyone's secrets are coming out. It was really good. I read this in like 2 days. So it's going into my actual child category. I think it's going to go to the end of it though. But still, one of the best thrillers I've read. Next up is Once More with Feeling. This book was very out of the box for me. I enjoyed it. Didn't change my life. I think it's a pat on the back. I think it'll go there. Then A Very Typical Family. I have no idea where I heard of this book. I think I might have just randomly been scrolling through Libby and come across it. It was another like family drama. These three siblings are estranged. Their mom dies, and to inherit the house according to her will, they all have to come together, the three of them. And I love a will dispute. I love books about wills. Um, so I think that's what made me want to read it. I liked it a lot. It was a good time. Again, nothing revolutionary. Not a what. I'm trying to figure out where in a pat on the back. I think that it'll go here. Next up is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. My book club read this for our dark academia theme, and that was only a part of this book. You know, I did really like it. I thought that Eli and the other guy whose name I don't remember, I think they're both really compelling characters and questioning what do we do with magical powers, where do we put God into the equation, all very interesting. I think that it'll go into Silver Star. I know some people love this book. I liked it a lot. Oh, next up is Dawn Shard is what this one is. This one's Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. It takes place between books 2 and 3 of the Stormlight Archive. I didn't read it in the recommended reading order because it follows one of the characters in the Stormlight Archive who's not my favorite. It follows the Lopen, who's not my favorite, but it also follows one of my characters who is my favorite, who is Risen. Dawn Shard super duper surprised me because it made me appreciate the Lopen in a new way, seeing him interacting with another disabled character. I was so pleasantly surprised by this one. I think that it's going to go here. Then I have Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, the second book of the Throne of Glass series. I thought that the first half of Crown of Midnight was really, really slow. And then the middle event, if you've read this book, the event that happens in the middle, I did not understand Selena's response to it and how distraught she was. But the ending, the final half, I binged through that second half really quickly. So I think it's Silver Star. I liked it less than Throne of Glass, less than Happy Place. I think it's gonna go here. Then this was a reread for me. I reread Red Rising. Originally, I read the physical book, and this one I listened to the audiobook, and I don't recommend the audiobook. The audiobook narrator of Red Rising has the thickest Irish accent. I couldn't understand him. Even I slowed it down from how fast I normally listen. I could not understand this man. I think that this book reads better physically. It kind of, rereading it, changed my opinions on some of the characters, some of Darrow's backstory. I think that, it's just like this first book is like really dark adult Hunger Games. I think it's really good. I think it goes into Silver Star. I'll go there. Next up, okay, at this point in the year, I had the Dragonsteel convention on the horizon, and I knew that I needed to be completely caught up in the Cosmere to go to the spoiler Q&A. So I listened to a bunch of, like, the rest of the Cosmere at this point in the year. Starting with Shadows of Self, getting back into Mistborn Era 2. Shadows of Self had a lot of callbacks to the original Mistborn trilogy, which really made my heart happy to see these places that we were with Kelsier and with Vin. I really liked Shadows of Self. I think that it was great. Big step up from The Alloy of Law. And then Elantris. For being Brandon Sanderson's first published novel, solid. I think that 2 of the 3 POVs were excellent. I'm gonna put it at the top of A Pat on the Back. Let me. Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. I forgot that I read this book. It was a twisty thriller, nothing impressive. I couldn't tell you about the plot. I don't really remember it. I think for that alone, it has to go into what? I'll put it in the top of what? Another out of left field book was Booked on a Feeling. It was a lighthearted romance between a burnt out lawyer who goes back to her hometown, rekindles a relationship with her childhood best friend who works at a brewery. It was just cute. They save a bookstore. It was everything you'd want in a rom-com. I think that it is absolutely... It feels so bad to put above so many Brandon Sanderson books. Was it A Pat on the Back or was it A Silver Star? I think it was A Pat on the Back. I think I liked Divine Rivals more than it. I liked Fourth Wing more than that. Yeah, that's good. Bands of Mourning. I loved Bands of Mourning. It really got into the relationship between Wax and Steris, and this book made me love and absolutely adore Steris way more than I ever would have anticipated of when I read The Alloy of Law. So this book, being the 3rd book in the 2nd era of this series, this is one of my favorites of the year. I think it's going to go here. Then I went right into The Lost Metal, which was the final book of Mistborn Era 2. This one was very high stakes, big adventure, lots of action. I liked The Bands of Mourning more, but it still made me cry, made me feel big feelings. So I think it's gonna go here. No, I think it's gonna go here. I think I liked Maeve more. It feels weird to break up a series, but sometimes you have to. Okay, next is The Broken Girls, another book club book. I remember when I first read this book, I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, 5 stars. I thought this was really good. But in retrospect, I couldn't tell you a lot of what happened. It didn't have the memorable quality that I wanted. So I guess because of that, I have to put it in, I will put it at the end of Silver Star. But still, I remember it being really good. Like, I will recommend it. If you read it, I'll say, yeah. Then I read Arcanum Unbounded, which is the Sandersons, collection of little short stories. There's a lot of short stories in this. My favorite one is Edge Dancer, which follows my favorite Cosmere character, Lift. I thought it was good. Some of the stories of Kelsier were boring. So I think I'm gonna put it I'll put it above Fourth Wing. I'll put it above Divine Rivals. Yep. Oh boy. We have arrived, ladies and gentlemen, with Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, the hotly anticipated sequel to Fourth Wing. And this book sucked. This book I gave 1 star. It is worse than It Starts. No, I liked it more than It Starts With Us. So it at least has that. It's just, the world made no sense. There was no world building. The relationships were annoying. The characters, I couldn't keep them straight. I didn't know what was happening ever. I was bored. It felt like it was constant action, and I constantly so it's like it just leveled off here, and there was just no room for it to grow. I really disliked it. It made me mad. Next up is the final secret project of 2023. Sunlit Man was very action-packed, and I feel like it's hard for me to always keep up with action stories, and this one is also a classic Brandon Sanderson book of let's do science. So I thought that this was really good. I loved the little sneak peek into the future of the Cosmere. I did get lost in the sauce of the action, but it was really good. I think that I liked Tress more. Yeah. I think that's about right. That's good. Okay, getting into the home stretch here. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I was shocked at how much I like this one. I feel like people either love it or hate it. Our main character was someone who you simultaneously understood her dark desires to take this manuscript and to make it her own and to find the success that she wanted. Like, you weirdly understood her. But then she would say something where you're like, girl, you can't say that. I thoroughly loved Yellowface. It is going into my actual child. I think at the end of that category is about right. The ending wasn't my favorite, but I still think it was really good. Then, The Handyman Method. This horror book just, it's so good. It is another one that felt like a classic Stephen King story of just this family facing this unbeatable force of nature, generational curse that they just had no choice but to give into and let it overcome them. It talks about masculinity and being the man of the house. It was just so good. It was one of the best horror books that I read last year. I think it will go above Maeve. It is like a go-to horror recommendation that deserves way more hype. Then I hit one of my most eagerly anticipated sequels of the year, which was Bookshops and Bone Dust, the sequel, or I guess prequel, to Legends and Lattes. Legends and Lattes, the allure of that was that it was high fantasy, low stakes. Like, the stakes did feel pretty low. The stakes of this one felt pretty high. I think that, the bookshop setting was really cute. The romance was cute, of the whole concept of, like, the right person at the wrong time. It was cute. I liked Legends and Lattes more. I think I liked it more than Sunlit Man, so it'll go there. Then The Unmaking of June Farrow. It just felt so Appalachian and lush and beautiful. The romance was really interesting. The characters were good. I read this book pretty quickly. I liked it a lot. I think it's gonna go in Silver Star. I liked it more than Vicious. More than that. I liked it more than that. I think it'll go here. Then, oh my gosh, The Celebrants. The Celebrants, it was a book that made me cry in public. It follows this group of friends that since college they've joked that they, you know, after an unexpected death of one of their friends and they went to his funeral and they're like, this is not at all what he would have wanted. So let's have our funerals while we're alive. So they, throughout their lives, their adult lives, when they need to like reinvent themselves, they have funerals for each other. It's just so good. Stephen Rowley is just so talented. I think it is my actual child for sure. I think more than Yellowface. So it'll go there. Now, earlier I said that after I read The Last Time I Lied, I said, I am done with Riley Sager. And then I proved myself wrong and I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager. And this book made me realize that Riley Sager does not write horror or thrillers. He writes soap operas. This book was a soap opera. The ending, yes, is twist whiplash, but I loved it. I loved how dramatic, like, I was laughing. I don't think I was supposed to be laughing, but I was like laughing at how twisty it was. I had a really good time with it. It was not perfect. The women characters were still awfully written, but I really liked it. So I think it is going to go up there. It should be higher than that. I think it's going to go here. And the final book that I read in 2023 was Nothing to See Here. This was a recommendation from one of my friends in book club. I've seen this cover all over. She described it of like, it's about this woman who is a nanny for kids who catch on fire. I'm in. I want to know what that's like. It was like a slice of life book that like could never happen because, like kids are catching on fire and stuff. But I thoroughly loved Nothing to See Here. Did not stick the landing, but I really, really liked it. I think it will go here. Let me give one final look. But I think that looks good to me. I think I'm happy with this. So, there it is. This is the tier ranking of all of the books that I read in 2023. All 84 books. So, wow, look at that. Okay, there you have it. those are all of the books that I read in 2023. I feel like going over all these books, I'm realizing what I learned about myself as a reader over the course of 2023, of what sorts of horror I like and the sorts of fantasy books that I like, and just what I want to bring into 2024 with the different books that I pick up this year. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye!